Hey, welcome everybody to the Dead Cat Crypto channel. I'm Joe, and today we're going to be talking about tokens. We'll be talking a little bit about Cosmos, and I'm going to have a guest today who really needs no introduction whatsoever. So I'm not going to give him one. I'll let him introduce himself, and we'll have some fun today on the channel. All right. Eric, why don't you just introduce yourself in case people are seeing you for the first time, and then we'll get into some fun stuff with tokens and prices and market and Cosmos.
I'm Eric Waisanen. I do a lot of tokenomics stuff in this space, including being a co-founder of Astrovault and Outbid, Dex and Launchpad, quite a bit in quite a few places in the Cosmos ecosystem now. But yeah, a lot of tokenomics work. Before that, I worked in casinos and did a lot of economic philosophy stuff.
Let's start with tokenomics, right? I've always been really interested in just how these founders can plan out 10 years of tokenomics before their chains or apps are even live. What's the number one mistake that you see that founders make with their tokenomics that would be fixed if they hired you to advise on the tokenomics in the first place?
Oh man, I think number one mistake is having a max supply, and then number two mistake is not planning for revenue. But a lot of what I do in tokenomics is more monetization planning and strategy, building the business design, and then having the token capture it. So many projects that we've seen in crypto have no business design at all. They have no
Mm.
sales department, and so how can you have a business? How can you capture value if there is none?
What do you think about the Uniswap token?
Um, yeah.
On a scale of 1 to completely unnecessary, where are you in that range?
From one to unnecessary, I think the
Yeah.
token was unnecessary. I think now they're making some plans to make it necessary. They have adoption, they have distribution, they have liquidity. The token as a product itself is great, but the idea of pretending that it captures value from Uniswap's development and market share is a farce. It doesn't.
What are one of the bigger tokens out there that are associated with an app that you actually think, yeah, this makes sense? They're maybe not perfectly designed, but moving in the right direction. Something that everybody would know, whether it be Aave or one of these other ones, Radium's token. Anything you see out there that makes sense?
I think Compound's doing some pretty cool stuff right now. They had a governance exploit a while ago, and they're working on rebranding some stuff. They're really tuning in on revenue maximization and having the token governance do some cool stuff as well.
What do you see as besides AXV? What do you see that's out there that's maybe the best design for a token that's related to any kind of DeFi app?
I'm going to be partial and say basically anything I've designed, things
All
like
right, there you
Nano.
go.
But yeah, I mean, Aerodrome, Velodrome, like that stuff's actually really similar to what Astravault did, where the protocol keeps the fees and then the users get the protocol.
Mhm.
It automatically decentralizes things. It outpaces sell pressure with buyback pressure. They just have significant more support users and liquidity than we do, but we actually have significantly higher margins than they do as a protocol. So while I really do appreciate their design, like in my opinion, Astrovault's even further with that, just in an unknown corner of the cosmos, whereas they got featured on base.
Catch people up on what the developments are with Astravault. I know you've got 2 new deployments. Just get people on the right track.
So Astravault is the first profitable DEX, whereas Uniswap made a science fair project and then threw a token at it when they realized that they had no revenue, which you could check on DeFi Llama right now. They have no revenue. At this point, they couldn't really monetize the DEX, so they're making a chain.
They make
Which
a lot of money for ETH though, for Ethereum.
they did, and now they're
They're like
making their own chain.
20%, right? It's like
Yeah.
20% of the gas fees coming from Uniswap.
I think it was $40
So
million a year for a while. So yeah, they made a science fair project, didn't know how to monetize it, threw a token at it. We then took the actual business they were trying to recreate, which was Coinbase, and we figured out how to monetize the trade fees and how to monetize the liquidity the same way Coinbase is, by dipping into security budgets, by staking with a lot of the liquidity they hold. And Astrovault's doing that and is actively profitable right now. We built it on Archway initially, didn't get a whole lot of traction there that we were hoping for. So pursuing funding, trying to keep crypto as a full-time job, we got grants to go to Neutron, and then grants and investments to go to Nibiru as well. So we are now also a multi-chain DEX. We separate that from cross-chain because at this point, a lot of DEXs have been able to redeploy, and you can use one version of it at a time. However, with Astravault's deployment, you can actually use every chain we're on at the exact same time under the same UI, keep all of your portfolio nice and together, and actually, be truly multi-chain.
And so what, liquidity is joined under the hood in some cases between at least Archway and Neutron? They should be a lot more similar than Archway and Nibiru. How does that work?
Great question. The liquidity pools live in silos on independent chains, but there are routes to them across the chain. And using our permit manager, like from the Cosmos sub directly, you can actually, like, we can view all of your deployments on every chain. So for a user, if you start on Archway and you want to go to Nibiru, then you can start with the Arch token. You don't have to deposit it. It's already the native asset, and trade all the way to Nibiru and have that on the Nibiru chain, get Nibi on the Nibiru chain, where you don't have to withdraw because it's already the native asset. And you basically get this like depositless, withdrawless experience where now, like, if every chain needs a good DEX and we've got the best DEX model, then, and we don't have our own, the overhead of our own chain, then why don't we become everybody's primary DEX? And through that, it actually strengthens our DEX model because now it's giving these users access to liquidity in projects on other chains directly. Anyways, for deploying on Osmosis, right now they're permissioned CosmWasm, and we are closed source. I know everything in crypto has got to be open source. Well, it's easy to say if you're a founder who raised $15 million and then copied somebody else's code. We built everything from the ground up, and we didn't raise any money. So no, once we're rich, then we'll open source our code. But until then, if they go permissionless, it would probably be worth it for us to go and deploy there, even if we didn't get a significant grant, just because of the deal flow for the routing. Because like we have a lot of the best pools. We are the best place to trade Bitcoin right now. Oftentimes we're the best place to trade Osmo. We have the most concentrated liquidity in all of Web3. And we don't want to give that away for free. So while it's contingent that we have to BSL our license or open source in some capacity, we're not going to go beg to deploy there and give away our stuff to do it.
Nibiru. That's probably a chain that most people haven't heard of. Even if they're in Cosmos, what's going on there? What's the draw? Because you go on their page and you see lots of heavy hitters there.
Nibiru is exciting. So they raised quite a bit of money, which a lot of these L1s did. But a lot of the L1s just kind of had this idea that like, oh, well, a bunch of apps that we don't know are just going to choose to come and build here without funding because we're so desirable. And Nibiru was like, no, an L1's strength is its dApps. They actually had some cool dApp ideas of their own, which is why they wanted a chain that was customized to it. But they had the right mindset. They're like, look, we're going to be a layer one. We need high velocity of DeFi applications so that there's money going through them. And as there's money going through them, everyone needs to be loaded up in our gas token to make everything work. They then raised a fund specifically to invest in applications on their layer, realizing that, hey, our value prop is our apps. We actually need to get good apps. Good apps mean that they need to be able to be in crypto full time, which again, we've been struggling to do for Astravault. And so they raised a fund. They're only investors. They gave us a grant and they invested in us. And they have a lot of exciting new DeFi applications coming in here that are a lot of them catered to Ethereum connection. So Cosmos is better tech, right? It's faster. It has instant finality.
You always say that.
You could do all this cool stuff, but all the money's in Ethereum and those protocols and all the funds are there. So if you can get the best of both worlds and tap into Ethereum without having to be built on it, sick.
Every quantum leap I'm finding myself trapped inside of people. Differences underneath the fundamental side of ego. Truly not that equal. That's why they say don't meet your heroes. We are part of this evil, so pardon all my amigos.